Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Front and Center, a program that focuses on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. Join me in this program here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And you can watch this program on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center and the programs of Radyo Pilipinas World Service can also be listened on the following shortwave frequencies: 12.010 MHz, 15.640 MHz, and 17.820 MHz. And join us for another edition of Front and Center. I'm your host, Jerome Toledo. President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. called on the armed forces of the Philippines to remain faithful to their sworn duties to the country and the people. The President made the call as he administered the oath of office of 39 top AFP officials. President Marcos said the added stars conferred upon them are reminders of their heavier responsibility to the country and the people. The President also hopes that the added stars on their shoulders may serve as an inspiration in performing their duties with utmost dedication, professionalism, and integrity worthy of emulation, as he urged them to be a boot on the ground or be among them and still command from the front. President Marcos extended his congratulations to the newly promoted AFP officials. He said their promotion is a recognition that is built on merit, as all professional advancement in the armed services should be. And in the same occasion, the chief executive also urged 39 newly promoted officers of the armed forces of the Philippines to be cognizant of existing and emerging threats against the country. President Marcos said the threats could jeopardize the peace efforts of the administration. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces said the response to the existing and emerging challenges requires bold thinking and brave action of the military, as he expressed confidence that they will be able to respond to them effectively.
I congratulate you all for a promotion that I know is well-deserved, the fitting reward for a career and a life dedicated to public service. It is a recognition that is built on merit, as all professional advancements in the armed services should be. It is also based on competence, pursuant to the time-honored tradition that the only way to step up in ranks is to step up with your work. From the day you get your first commission, many decades ago, you have since given your best, making sure every assignment is one rung up the ladder in terms of course, your rank, but more importantly, in terms of the quality of the service and the work and the mission that you are complying with. But you have not yet reached the summit of your career. Your new rank, however, does not send you out to your last patrol. There is much still left to do, missions to accomplish, service to be selflessly rendered to the people that we have all sworn to protect with our lives. If any, the stars on your shoulder do not just indicate rank, but are reminders of the responsibilities, added responsibilities that you now have to carry on those shoulders. The more stars there are, the heavier the responsibility. Be mindful always of the weight that that carries. After all, the load that you feel are, in fact, our people's hopes. Especially now that we are at the juncture of our history where our nation faces complex security challenges, the response to which requires bold thinking, brave action, which I know you can supply in abundant amounts as befits your rank and you can summon from your previous experience. This is the landscape that confronts you now. It is the security terrain that you have to address in the remaining tours of duty of your career. As senior officers in our armed services, may the stars conferred upon you serve as an inspiration in performing your duties with utmost dedication, professionalism, integrity, all worthy of emulation. Be a boot on the ground or be among them and still command from the front. I know that until the last hour of your last day in office, you will do your work that honors our oath, respects our uniform, earns the admiration of our peers, and affirms the prestige that you have earned through a lifetime of service. That you will uphold the principles that made you patriots, professionals, always compliant with command, faithful to our Constitution, loyal to our country, and mindful of our conscience. Malaki ang inyong katungkulan na gagampanin pa. Mabigat pa ang mga gawaing nag-aantay sa inyo. Marami pa tayong misyon na harapin at higit sa lahat, malaki ang inaasahan sa inyo ng sambayanan na ating pinaglilingkuran at ng Republika na ating pinagtatanggol at minamahal. Huwag natin silang biguin. Yan ang kapalit ng bago ninyong rangko. Yan ang sukli sa kanilang pananalig sa inyo. Mabuhay ang AFP, mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas, at muli, congratulations sa ating mga bagong promote na general officers and flag officers.
And that was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. And the chief executive on May 16 vowed to quash destabilization plots, even as he called on the military to continue its loyalty and service to the country. Marcos said he would not allow attempts to sow division in the country. He urged the military to continue to demonstrate loyalty, patriotism, and service to the country. He also added that the love of country should remain as the compass in fulfilling duty to the country and its people among soldiers, as he expressed continued trust and confidence in the armed forces of the Philippines, stressing that he does not need to conduct a loyalty check among their ranks. Talking about the heavier responsibility of the armed forces has in their shoulders, President Marcos Jr. led the command conferences of the Philippine Army and Philippine Air Force in an aim to boost the defense of our sovereignty, be it by land or by air. And on the Air Force side, the country's air power capability was among the points of discussion in the command conference of the Philippine Air Force led by the chief executive. To be exact, as Presidential Communications Office said in a statement, Marcos was briefed on the recent activities, plans, and proposed projects of the Air Force. It also said that President Marcos gave his guidance and instructions on some of the proposed programs to further strengthen the Air Force as it defends the country's sovereignty, territory, and development. On the other hand, in the Philippine Army, the comprehensive archipelagic defense concept was the center of discussion during the command conference of the Philippine Army led by President Marcos Jr. in Malacanang. And Presidential Communications Office said the Commander-in-Chief led the discussion on how the Army can contribute to the country's new defense posture which aims to secure Philippine seas and territory. Also in the agenda was the improvement of the capabilities of the military through the Philippine Army Capability Development Program. And if you can recall, the comprehensive archipelagic defense concept has been adopted as the country's military pivots to a more outward-looking defense posture and must focus on strengthening other services of the AFP, not just the Philippine Navy. And the Philippines adopted this new defense strategy amid China's aggression in the West Philippine Sea. And Front and Center will be right back after Pinoy Kultura.
Time to celebrate kulturang Pinoy. Tradisyon, musika, sining, literatura at iba pa. Anything and everything fun and Filipino. Ito ang Pinoy Kultura.
It's a leap of faith, factually more like a three-step and a sway. Ito ay ang sayaw sa Obando, Bulacan. Sinasalihan ng mga babae at lalaki na humihiling ng anak o asawa sa tatlong pintakasing santo. The Three Saints, San Pascual Bailon, Santa Clara ng Assisi, and Nuestra Señora de Salambao. Wikipedia says it's a dance of vitality and abundance performed for 3 days from May 17th to the 19th, one day devoted to each saint. The festival starts off with a mass, and later in the day, the dance procession is performed, where devotees sing the Santa Clara song and melody to the Blessed Virgin of Salambao, their Thanksgiving song. The festival could be traced to an ancient ritual called Kasilonawan, a celebration of the god Linga, a force of nature. When the Franciscan missionaries came, they introduced the three saints to replace the pagan gods. In WW2, the Church of Obando and much of the town was pretty much destroyed, including images of the three saints. The festival was banned because of its pagan roots. Religious processions were still held, but the dancing was not allowed. But in 1972, the new parish priest and the Cultural Commission of Obando brought the tradition back. Sayaw sa Obando has survived for centuries, holds up to this day. And yes, it was another victim of the COVID, put on hold just like other mass activities. But in May this year, thousands of devotees, mostly families and couples, came back to pray for children and perform the fertility dance in the streets of Obando. And just to be safe, with face masks on.
Yan ang Pinoy Kultura, because our culture is cool.
Serving the Republic of the Philippines for more than 75 years. Ito po ang Presidential Broadcast Service.
Welcome back to Front and Center. In other developments in the Philippines, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. vowed that no one will be left behind under the Bagong Pilipinas or New Philippines amid the various challenges brought about by the El Nino phenomenon in the country. The country is still experiencing drought induced by El Nino, as several regions in the country are still experiencing heat index hitting at a danger level, impacting agricultural lands and destroying farmers' livelihood. President Marcos said the government will ensure to visit all parts of Mindanao and the whole country to ensure that aid will reach all, including those in far-flung areas. In the same occasion, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. also vowed government presence in Mindanao not only during crisis, but all times. President Marcos said the government will continue its programs on infrastructure for Mindanao. The various key projects for Mindanao, ongoing and in the pipeline, ensure the important presence of the government in the region. The infrastructure programs, according to the president, include airports, roads, and other projects. And more projects are in the pipeline for the region to push its development. So as he puts it, the government will always be there for the region, not only during crisis. Meanwhile, President Marcos recognized the predicaments of farmers and fisherfolks amid the effects of El Nino. Thus, the president vowed to extend all the necessary support and assistance for them. With this, he personally delivered various government assistance to select farmers, fisherfolk, and family beneficiaries from northern Mindanao, particularly in the provinces of Lanao del Norte and Misamis Occidental. Earlier this month, the president visited Zamboanga and General Santos City in South Cotabato to deliver similar assistance to farmers affected by the dry spell brought by El Nino. In other stories, in terms of education, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. said the higher education must be reconfigured to make it attuned to the needs of the post-pandemic world and ensure the Philippines' global competitiveness. In his attendance at the National Higher Education Day Summit, he said that as far as the government service is concerned, the most important service that government must provide to its people is a good education. The president stressed that education will be on its highest priority.
No challenge demands greater attention than this. This is the highest priority. I have stated it before, but I will state it again, that as far as my view of government service is concerned, the most important service that government must provide to its people is a good education. No country can prosper without a good educational background. Even if we take it down to the individual level, individuals cannot prosper without a good education. And of course, together with all the stakeholders, both on the public side and the private side, once again, training, education holds the key.
In the same speech, the president noted that no Philippine university reached the top 100 in the recent Times Higher Education's 2024 Asia University Rankings. He added that a lot of work is still needed to achieve higher education rankings.
This just goes to show that much work is still to be done. We must pursue a comprehensive and all-encompassing strategy that will turn this trend around. The state of our education today shapes the future of the nation. And that is why improving higher education and making it responsive to the present and future needs of society is front and center of this administration's national development agenda. The success of many of our plans for the country depend heavily on the availability of a strong, resilient, and skilled human resource to drive the nation forward.
And the chief executive reiterated the administration's commitment to the continuing provisions of free tertiary education in state universities and colleges for qualified students under the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, sharing that there is an allocated fund to bankroll the free tertiary education for this year so that more students and families will be eased of the burden of having to pay for college. He conveyed that democratizing access to education should not lead to the lowering of academic standards and that appropriations do not always provide solutions to problems.
This administration remains committed to the continuing provision of a free tertiary education in public universities and colleges for qualified students as provided under the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act. We have allocated close to 134 billion pesos for our state and local universities and colleges this year so that more students can receive free tertiary education and more families will be eased of the burden of having to pay for college. We know that whatever is spent on education, we should never regard as an expenditure. It is an investment. It is an investment. It is an investment in our people. It is an investment in our country. It is an investment in our future. Third, mandates must be attached to merits. Democratizing access to education should not lead to the lowering of academic standards.
That was President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. And the NHED offered an opportunity for leaders of higher education institutions to strengthen and forge further partnerships to collectively address issues and other concerns in the country's education system. And finally, in this episode of Front and Center, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. witnessed the partnership and undertaking of Cerberus Capital Management and HD Hyundai Shipbuilding and Offshore Engineering in Subic. It was in May 2023 when the President received the United States-based Cerberus in a courtesy call at the palace wherein the firm expressed commitment to pursue more investments in the country. The said meeting followed its acquisition of a shipyard in Subic in April 2022 and rebranded it as Aguila Subic. Also, HD Hyundai signed an agreement with Cerberus where it is set to move into a large section of the Aguila Subic shipyard and commence operations focusing on offshore wind platforms. Throughout the years, Cerberus embarked on a mission to revitalize the shipyard, putting in place new information technology systems and other facilities. It also partnered with the Philippine Navy to set up its world-class facility as well as brought in Subcom, a leading subsea fiber optic cable company, which will utilize Aguila Subic as its hub, serving the Asia Pacific region. And for its part, HD Hyundai reaffirms its steadfast commitment as a strong partner of the Philippines, particularly with its active participation in the modernization of the Philippine Navy since 2016. As it envisions to expand cooperation with the country on the maritime construction sector, HD Hyundai marches onward to transforming Subic's facilities into a state-of-the-art maritime complex that is set to handle offshore wind structure projects and ship repairs, among many others. And President Marcos Jr. noted that the investments which will be created in this undertaking are especially beneficial to Subic as these will strengthen the Freeport area's vital role as a hotspot for industrial, commercial, and other economic activities. He adds that the partnership between Cerberus and HD Hyundai opens an opportunity for the country to have a fresh start and strong foundation in realizing its vision to be among the largest and most consequential shipbuilders in the world. And that wraps up another edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You can watch this program again over our Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Together with our producer Erwin Peñano and technical personnel Milo Janela, this is your host Jerome Toledo. And join us again in another episode of Front and Center. Mabuhay and love the Philippines.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.